Today's reading session, we'll be reading about Vairagya from Bodhayanti Parasparam, Volume 3. So Vairagya, Viveka stresses the need for determination. If we do not have a determination and not prepared to gird up our loins, we are not surely going to have Viveka. This is the point of view with which we ended in the last talk on Viveka. The concept of Vairagya is directly connected to the concept of Viveka. In tradition, they are generally called two bhushanam, or two ornaments we should have in the path of spirituality. Jnana, Vairagya, Bhushanam. If you don't have these two, Viveka, which is otherwise called Jnana, and Vairagya, you are not likely to move far in the path of spirituality. Some abhyasis who have stated that they are not able to develop these virtues or expect them to be granted by some other force rather than generating through their own will are likely to fail in sadhana. The help of the master comes only when we do our duty. It's clear, na? The Dharmesh sir says,
yes,
it will not be served on a platter to you. You have to work hard for it.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Yeah.
if you work hard, then the help will be there. It just there's no free lunch here. Some abhyasis have stated that I am not able to just satisfy with due attachment, which is also expressed in another way, that I am yet to develop due attachment. We should note that there is nothing like developing due attachment. We are, as on date, unduly attached. If we reduce that undue attachment, then it is due attachment. Nobody develops due attachment. There can be only one attachment, and that is attachment with the divine. And that ensures limiting other attachments to the level that can be called due. Now, what is the Viveka that we should have in spirituality? The Viveka that we have got is everything here in this world is His, by which we mean it is the Lord's. No one has got any possessive right over any of the items or things or persons whatsoever in this world. Because of the lack of the awareness that divine is everywhere and divine owns everything, here the problem of attachment to things develops. Divine owns everything here. We cannot own anything here. Even the land that is there in the country is that of the government. Any land for that matter, even when we purchase the land, it is all of the government. We have to pay cess, we have got to pay annual rent, etc. Nobody owns the land. Land is owned by the government and can be acquired by the government at any time. I think this concept is very clear to most of us. Similarly, it is the Lord who is the owner of everything here. So when we say we are trying to own something, we are usurping what is His. This is what the Isa Upanishad stated, Isa Vasyam Idham Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagatyam Jagat. Whatever that is His. Therefore, Tena Tyaktena, therefore leave attachment and be happy. The word Ka always refers to God. Therefore, the word Kasya in the Upanishad means that of God. God's property is here, and we have no right over any of the things or persons here. So it is not exactly undue attachment, but it is an unwarranted, unnecessary, and irresponsible attachment that we have got. And that is very clear to a person who thinks well and knows everything is God's. The transient nature of things also proves the uselessness of possessiveness. This too shall pass away, is the knowledge that Viveka gives us. Anything that we own, anything that we have, also passes away. This too shall pass away. If you want to know in one sentence, that is Viveka, and that is what Viveka is. Once we know that we do not own anything, and since everything goes or changes, we cannot hold any, the state of renunciation is possible. So renunciation, Vairagya, comes only when you have understood Viveka in a deeper sense, or you realized Viveka in a deeper sense. Once you realize that everything changes, your body becomes old and dies. I mean, the second law of thermodynamics catches up. And then the world also, someday the earth also will go into a black hole, and then it will again reform in some other galaxy somewhere else. So there's nothing permanent about the earth, moon, and Jupiter, whatnot, including the countries, whatever. Once we know that, that everything changes, and if you run after changing things, the happiness you get is also changing. So happiness can never be permanent if you run after things which are changing. So once that Viveka develops, then only the Vairagya comes in its wake. That's what Sir is telling. Renunciation is therefore possible only for a person who is aware of the presence of divine everywhere. If you are not aware of divinity, any amount of our trying to say, I am leaving my family, my children, my brothers, my sisters, my property, will not grant us Vairagya. The question is, for people who have faith in God, why is it that they are not able to get into the state of Vairagya? It is because that particular knowledge is poor. Our awareness of the presence of divinity is so poor that we are not feeling the same. It is some intellectual stuff we have, and we do not have such a feeling established in our hearts. So the control of mind or regulation of mind is only possible. Mind is, as I told you earlier, I think, Dharmesh, I told you, the mind comes into existence only to bring our desires to fruition. When a desire is there, the mind appears to carry out the, put the energy for fulfilling that desire. If there is no desire, the mind has got no work. Mind will be silent. Vairagya is a state where there are no desires. So the mind will be silent. You almost control of mind, you got it already. The mind comes into existence to execute your desires. So mind becoming inactive or in a restful state, or it is tamed, means you have controlled the mind already. So control of mind happens only when you are free from desires. And that is a state of Vairagya. So why mind is not getting control? It is because the feeling that God is all pervasive is iffy. It's not so clear cut in majority of the. It's an intellectual knowledge, but not a feeling actually. Feeling is there during meditation, but that is also very unstable. It simply disappears when some desire crops up.
So I was just related. We were just talking in the car today. There is one short YouTube video of some saint. So he's asking people, how many of you know that money does not give happiness? So everyone raises their hands. And then he asks, how many wants more money? Everyone still raises their hands. So it's the
That's true.
what Sir has mentioned here, right? It is the knowledge is poor and our awareness is poor of that.
So it is some intellectual stuff we have, and we do not have such a feeling established in our hearts. So established, both you are owning up the condition. That's what, that's a favorite word of Sir actually. Some Abhyasis felt that trusteeship is something we should develop. Trusteeship is not something to be developed. Being a trustee is what we are already. The divine has trusted us and entrusted care of certain things and persons to us. We should be aware of it. We should know that we are only trustees. We don't develop that. Our status is only that. We are trustee only. We thought that we are the owners. We have to give up the delusion of ownership. This point has to be understood. If we think we are the owner, we have lost the same already. When someone says he is not able to be a trustee and leave the idea of ownership, it means he is not sure about God and the absolute right of his over everything in creation. Let there be no confusion on this subject. I request Sister Vidya to read.
Namaste everyone.
Namaste. Yeah.
Viveka will grant Vairagya provided our Viveka is right. It is his property, therefore we have no business to say it is ours. By being constantly aware of the divine, we will be in a position to stabilize ourselves in the state of Vairagya. Possessiveness is one thing, enjoyment is another. Not all those who acquire money enjoy it. Misers are an example. They collect enormously and hoard it, but they don't enjoy. There are two aspects we must be very clear about. One person who wants to enjoy, another person who wants to possess. A third one wants to possess and enjoy. Third category is an interesting category. These are the people who want to have the cake and also eat it. That is why there is a perennial demand for acquisition. Possessiveness leads to acquisition. It is a perennial demand because one goes on eating the cake also. So one is constrained to develop acquisitiveness to meet the demand. And so long as we are going to get involved in this drama of possessiveness, enjoyment, and acquisition, the chances of Vairagya developing in us does not arise. But if we are going only to enjoy what is presented to us, development of Vairagya is possible. That is what the Upanishad says. It says, Tena tyaktena bunjita. Therefore, leave this attachment, possessiveness, but still enjoy. Whatever is given to us, we can enjoy. Be happy about it. Great Father is so kind to give. Better have it. It is not ours, it is his, and we are permitted to have a share. Due attachment is what we have been stressing most, but we can take it as due attachment when it is not interfering with our attachment to the divine. If our attachment to the divine is not affected to that extent, we can say other attachments are acceptable, and that is possible only when we live as a trustee. If we have got any other attitude other than that of a trustee, we can never have due attachment. An Abhyasi asked, how to develop due attachment? Due attachment, as a matter of fact, is something that comes out of trusteeship. When we go beyond the trustee level and try to possess, then we are having undue attachment. This is one of the most important lessons that is taught in Islam. When great God tells to please sacrifice your son, and the pious man was ready to sacrifice, it is because he knew he was only a trustee, and when the owner wants back his son, he is to be given. It is because of the awareness that son is the son of God. He gave back the son. We will not do that because we think it is our son. It requires a great saint to say, yes, I will offer. There are examples in our Hindu culture also towards that. But in the famous Satya Harishchandra, in his earlier life, was yet to learn Satya. He was so possessive of his child, who was granted to him by God, that he wanted to dodge giving back the child. Harishchandra prayed to God Kubera, to grant him a child. He was granted the child on the condition he would be given back to Kubera. Then he begets a child. Kubera asks him to return the child, reminding him of the promise. Harishchandra, who he was not willing, went on postponing, saying that, let me see how he plays. Let me see his childish pranks. Let me see the child educated. Let me see that he gets Upanayanam. When it became inevitable, he finally tells that son to run away from him so that he will not have the possible responsibility of handing his son over to the God who gave the son. That is, he was trying to be possessive. When we compared him with the Saint Ali, he is nowhere near that standard in spiritual life. And that is the reason why Vishwamitra has contested his honesty. What made Vishwamitra contest the truthfulness of Satya Harishchandra is that He knew in an earlier life, Harishchandra was lying to God, and he wanted to know whether he is really a person who is committed to truth. In that process, the tests were put. He goes through that, and that is a separate story. What I am trying to say is the difficulty to practice Vairagya arises when we try to possess. What is his, we should give it back. And this can be done only by sharing is another lesson. The same thing is what we find in the tradition when we go to Tirupati. We say instead of offering the child's head, we give the hair. The tonsure ceremony is symbolic of offering of the child back to God. We say to God, as it were, you have given this child to me, I am giving back to you. That it has taken different routes is a separate subject. We still want to possess them is also true, but original message is not that. The original message is we should know that the child is a gift of the divine. Once he is a gift of the divine and is entrusted to our care, how can we say we possess him? Similar is the position of properties. Nothing here for that matter is ours. This state will never dawn unless we also know that between the heartbeats there is a silence. Very few people will meditate on that. We are asked to meditate on the heartbeat. Why? There is a pause between activity and inactivity. There is a balance that is struck. The natural balance that is there, which grants us peace, which peace is what we are running after all the time. We want to have permanently, but we know that we can have it only temporarily. Why we are asked to meditate on the heartbeat? If we think well, we know there is a pause between these two, and that pause reminds us of peace. Neither activity is ours nor inactivity is ours, but that peace is what we are. That balance is our nature. It is our identity. Everything we do in life is activity or can be brought under inactivity, but neither of this is true. If you know that peace, it is easy to renounce. If we do not know that peace, it is not easy for us to renounce. All that we own up in this world is either activity or inactivity. Nobody can own up balance. Balance is a tantalizing position. It is peace. If our nature is peace, and if we know that to be the nature of God, naturally we will not cling to anybody or anything.
Sister, we can take a pause just to see there are questions. Yeah, we can go ahead.
Looking at Vairagya from a different angle, namely that of the social angle, when one says that I am not able to get detached from all these things, it only shows our extraordinary interest in the matter. The interest is something we know is temporary. Let us take, for example, a piece of land which is an ancestral property. Our great-grandfather cultivated it. Our grandfather cultivated it. Our father cultivated it. We are cultivating it. Our sons will cultivate it. Then whose land it is? We come with an abstract concept that it belongs to family. It is not the family that is the owner. It is God that is owner. And so long as the men are honest and true, it is there with the family. Otherwise, it will go. It slips into somebody's hand who is more trustworthy than him. We tend to imagine that certain things are ours because our area of operation is that. This is the table that is given to me for maintenance. I tend to think this is mine. This joke I have seen in my office. My attenders say this table is mine. That table is that fellow's. I have nothing to do with it. This I will clean, but that I will not clean. When asked, why he should not clean that also, as that fellow has not come, His reply was, "No, sir, that is not mine. This is mine." We have absolutely no business to have such possessive thinking, but we develop that. In the case of clerks also, I found this. With reference to files also, I have seen them saying, "This file is mine, sir. I will not give to others." When asked who said it, he will show an office order which says that this subject belongs to him and another subject belongs to somebody else. He grants certain amount of permanency for a temporary arrangement. And our being trustees is only a temporary arrangement. Our existence here is transient. We are going to live at best for a quantum of time, maybe 80, maybe 100, maybe 120, surely not eternal.
Many times we, hello.
Yeah, please.
Many times we take a 3 BHK house, although 1 BHK is sufficient at their old age. But still we say that we are not possessive of it. So there is no attachment. So what is actually the truth?
So, see, here the thing is whether we take a 1 BHK or 3 BHK, right? Do we feel that it is God's? And do we feel that trusteeship? I think that's the important thing. It is not about a 1 BHK or 3 BHK. Yeah, it's about the possessiveness and the acquisition that we are going after.
Okay.
We have to understand two things: possessiveness and possessions. Possessions you may have, possessiveness. Once you have possessiveness, then you try to accumulate more. And there are others, as he said, they enjoy it also. Therefore, it becomes it gets exhausted. You want to get more. So the possessions, possessiveness, and spending also. So if you have possessions, but you have no possessiveness, then no problem at all. Finish. Yes, sir. He's also telling, God is asking you to enjoy after renouncing. I mean, Vairagya doesn't mean there is no joy in life. There is more joy. That's a paradoxical thing. Your mind is peaceful. You eat good stuff, or you enjoy a good holiday or friends. You really enjoy it, but you're not attached to it.
Okay.
You will enjoy it, but there is no attachment to that thing. Enjoyment is also passing away. You know that. But as you're enjoying, you're really enjoying. But afterwards, you're back in your own divine state.
Okay.
It doesn't mean you're a stone. He gave the example of Sita had a parrot, and then when the parrot died, Raja Janak became sorrowful. So, like that, he gives a story. Do you mean to say that he is not a human being? Has got heart and he's got feelings. So he enjoys, but detachment will be there. That is the point. People otherwise may go away with an idea that I know it's a life. What is the meaning of life? It's all sorrow, dull, dry. If there's no enjoyment in life, why should we live at all? All those questions will come. So, that means you renounce because everything belongs to God. He is giving you stuff to use it for your necessities and enjoy it.
Okay. Okay.
If you possess, that means you are usurping it. Suppose आपका घर में रेंट पे दिया मेरे को, मैं बोलूंगा महाजन करना है मेरा है, बोलता है usurped your thing. So I've misappropriated what really belongs to you on name actually. Actually everything belongs to God. But actually the property is registered in your name, so you own it. But if I'm a
or some like Dawood Ibrahim or whatever, I say, Maharaj ka naam hai, mera ghar hai. Also, I usurp your house.
Correct.
In that sense, every property belongs to God. I'm usurping God's property into my name. In that sense, God does, he says that is wrong.
Okay.
Trustee should be
Okay, sir. Thank you.
conventional reality is different. For namesake, I say this house is registered in my name. That's all about it. But then psychologically, we feel that it belongs to me. If that is the truth, then when you die, you should, the Jubilee's home also should come to heaven or hell.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a psychological feeling that this house belongs to me.
Okay, sir.
कैसा हो सकता हो? It's illogical, no?
Correct. Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
I will proceed. We are a trustee, and during that period alone, we are responsible for that. Still, we start thinking that it is ours because of our area of operation is what we feel it ours. So long as we know that we are discharging the duty of our master, here there is no problem. So long we think we are doing something on our own, there is a problem. So the Vairagya that we are talking here is a very difficult concept and must be understood in collaboration with the master's literature on Viveka also. As I told last, it is a very big thing. It carries in all these things. An aspirant mentioned about his food habits in this context. It is not connected to Vairagya, but that connected with Viveka. Vairagya doesn't have anything to do with this subject of eating indiscriminately. Whether to have Jihva Chapalya or not to have Jihva Chapalya is a matter of Viveka and has nothing to do with Vairagya as such. But these two things always overlap. It is always difficult to understand whether it is Vairagya that you should have or Viveka. That is why it's a twin concept, Jnana Vairagya. That is why the knots related to these two subjects, 1 and 1A in our system, are close to each other, showing the highly interconnected nature of these two essential spiritual conditions. We can never have Vairagya, real Vairagya, until we know that divinity is present everywhere. That awareness is what we are trying to get through in our meditations. Why we meditate again and again and on the heart is mainly because that is the place where we get to know the nature of divine, God or reality, namely balance. The balance that is there, the peace that we have is what enables us to understand the Vairagya. It has nothing to do with the other things. It is a question of determination. So far as other aspects of Vairagya are concerned, that are raised by some aspirants, they are all matters of determination. We have determination, we have it. If we don't have it, we don't have it. But as I mentioned, while talking about Viveka, this varies from one stage of life to another. Viveka of a Brahmacharin is different from Viveka of a Grihastha, which is different from that of a Vanaprastha and that of a Sannyasi. There cannot be one Viveka. Similarly, there cannot be one Vairagya. If we are trying to say that I am trying to renounce the world, we are talking about something which we cannot do. Renunciation of the world is an impossibility because we are in the world, we can never renounce it. We can renounce certain relationships in this world. We can renounce our relationship with our partners, our children, our parents, or our house. All this we can, but we can never renounce the world. The word renunciation of the world is, I think, bordering on stupidity. We can never do that until we die. Nobody renounces the world. There is no such option. As I call it, the orbit of God is so big that we can never run away from that. We are always within the orbit. We have got to move within the orbit. We cannot do anything, and outside of it, there is no existence. So, renunciation is renunciation of relationships, as I pointed out earlier. While talking about Viveka, I mentioned that relationships arise only when we grant permanency for us. When we grant permanency to us, only we can grant permanency to the relationships we have. If we say we are not permanent, there can never be any permanent relationships.
I think this is one sentence to be thought out deeply, right? If we say we are not permanent, there can never be any permanent relationship. Because we keep granting permanency.
Yeah, also, nobody renounces the world. There is no such option.
Yeah.
So he said. Shall I continue? So this awareness that we are not permanent itself is in troubles. And why does it arise? I know that I am not the same child I was 64 years back. I was a baby, I know. I changed, but why is that this persistence of the feeling that I continue to exist forever? From where does this illusion arise? Who grants us this illusion? It is our consciousness that grants us that illusion, that is always permanent. That is the reason why it is said that the consciousness is permanent. Of the mind, Chit and Ahankar and Buddhi, these four constituents of Atma, it is Chit that is always permanent. It is always young. It never becomes old. It is what it is. It is what it is and what it will be. Our feelings can mature. Manas can mature. Buddhi can mature. Ahankar can mature. But consciousness per se cannot. That is the reason we can always feel we are young. However old we are, we always feel young. The reason is consciousness tells us that we are pure self. This Buddhi, Ahankar and Manas, these are the three constituents of our psyche that change. It is because of that we feel permanency, and that is true. We are eternal whether we are in the body or outside the body, we are eternal. Chit is always there, and we always and will always be, and that consciousness is what I call Sanatana or Sri Ramchandra consciousness. The consciousness that is we have is the same as the consciousness of that. There is no difference. That is the reason why we are able to get into him, and that is the reason why he is able to get into us and get out in the thread into which it was as a garlanded afterwards. But it is as temporary as anything else. Chit, pure and simple, is always there. That is why none of us, whatever may be our age, will feel old. Our body becomes old. We know it is the body that becomes old. We never think that we are old. Nobody thinks, even a man on the deathbed does not think so. His thinking can be old, his feelings can be old, but he is not old. Because of the nature of the Chit itself, we grant certain amount of permanency. Because we granted permanency, we want to grant permanency to other three factors, which are purely transient, even as the body. So mainly he is telling Chitti is the permanent one.
Yeah.
Should I proceed?
Any questions, comments? Let's go ahead.
The three constituents of our psyche, which we mentioned earlier, to which we grant permanency, can be also called the Antahkarana. So also the Indriyas are also included in the word Antahkarana. Indriyas we know get back to earth the moment we are out of the body. People who go on talking about the transiency of the nature of the body and stress permanency of the soul. But what I want sadhakas to appreciate is that there are three more factors in which transiency is observed. And they are our buddhi, our manas, and our ahankar. We can reduce our ahankar, we can change our buddhi, we can also transform our feelings, but we cannot change the consciousness which is behind. Consciousness per se doesn't undergo any modulation because we are confusing the issues we are granting permanency to everything that is attached to the consciousness, including the body. The first understanding is that we painfully understand that this body is not permanent. Regarding the other three factors, we do not even at the time of death understand their temporary nature, and that is the reason why we are reborn. It is the antahkarana that moves. It is the mind that moves. It is the ahankar that moves. It is the feelings that moves from one life to another. If we cannot develop this particular detachment towards these three aspects of ours, we really do not develop real Vairagya. This awareness of the transiency of these factors is the toughest lesson that we need to learn in developing Vairagya. Any questions or comments? Yeah. I'll proceed.
Yeah.
When we have a feeling of attachment to so and so thing or person, and when certain circumstances arise under which we feel forced to change that feeling, maybe because the person is dead, tendency to that feeling, to that particular thing or person. Today it is not there and gone away, and we find our roots shaken. In cases of people who give their daughters in marriage to somebody else, there is a feeling of separation. There it is the feeling that is in troubles. They know that they have to part with. They also know that the person will not stay with them, but they are not prepared to accept the feeling of separation. Because the change in situation is something they are not prepared to accept. They have granted a permanency to that feeling of father-daughter relationship. The father-daughter relationship expires the moment she is married is what our tradition has taught, but it doesn't happen. It did not happen in the past. Perhaps it may not happen in the future. We were born in a particular place. We have moved out of that place. There is an attachment to that place in the beginning. There is a feeling even when we moved out. We would like to keep a relationship that is severed. We would like to retain it as if it is permanent. Fortunately or unfortunately, even in the ISRC application forms, we ask which our native place is. We do not understand that there is nothing like a native place. The world is our native place. There are many things which are meaningless. In day-to-day transactions, we use those words, which is your native place, a feeling which is thrust by the society on us. Not only we have a feeling, The parents support us. The society also accepts it. But once it is severed, then we start questioning. We feel bad about it. We feel for the loss because we have granted a permanency to it, which is not there. If we have renounced that attachment in the beginning itself, if we know it is only temporary, we will definitely come out of this problem. We purchase a shirt, which is ours. We have a feeling that it is ours. We give it to a dhobi. That fellow burns it. We know that clothes definitely get burnt or torn someday. But then we are not prepared to accept that separation because we have granted certain amount of reasonable permanency for that, which need not necessarily be true. When we grant permanency, the problem of developing Vairagya becomes very difficult to solve. When we know that everything is transient and all relationships are transient, this problem is not there.
We can maybe try to pause. Yeah.